guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily, and I want to talk today about dominance. Dominance. Hopefully you're watching the video portion, not just listening to the audio. It's a gorgeous day. Out walking my dog, Chip. Chip! Come on back. Got Mr. Sword here, the Belgian Malinois. Where'd you go, buddy? Hey, big guy. We're having a great time on our walk here. And I was thinking about dominance because there is a notion. What's the right word? I don't think notion is the right word for what I'm trying to say here, but there's a concept that dog trainers are starting to teach, and they're teaching this concept that dominance does not exist. That, you know, dogs aren't pack animals, which they may or may not be. I really don't care. That's not terribly important to me. And as a result, dominance doesn't exist. And it's out here watching these two dogs, not mine. That one's mine, Chocolate Chip. Sword's not mine. It's out here watching these dogs that I'm reminded about lessons that these dogs teach us about dominance. And how some of them we can apply to ourselves and others not so much. But here we've got Chocolate Chip, who's a great dog. Chip, come on back. And we've got Sword, who's a great dog. Now, Sword happens to be a Belgian Malinois who's very powerful. Very powerful. He's in training as a protection dog. He's an intact male. He's strong. When he bites like ferociously. When you ask him to be aggressive, he's powerful. And Chip is, she's a powerful little girl. But anyways, Chip will, whenever I let these guys out in the backyard to play, will want to dominate him. She'll growl at him, she'll bite at his neck, and if he lies down, she wants to stand over the top of him, and she wants to dominate him. Her posturing when they're playing is very domineering in nature. She'll kind of puff up her chest and push against him. And it's not just him. She does this with everybody. She does this with every dog, and so I've got to be careful letting her play and making sure I'm guiding how she plays. But she wants to dominate and kind of own that conversation every time. And so when I hear these things, folks saying, oh, dominance doesn't exist, it's made up, it's not a real thing, I always look to, well, if it's not a real thing, why is she standing over the top of him trying to make sure that he doesn't move? Why is she growling and pushing him in one direction? Why will she push him out of the way to take a toy? And, why will she do these things if dominance doesn't exist? Now, I think the reason why folks say dominance doesn't exist is because, they've erroneously looked at the research. And the research shows that if you are kind of brutal or unnecessarily physically dominant with your dog, that there's a good chance that you're going to, make your dog afraid, things like that. And so the prevailing mindset says, okay, well, let's not teach dominance anymore. But that's not the way to go. Dominance exists. You as the human don't really need to bring that into play very much. The idea that you need to be dominant over your dog isn't terribly accurate. You don't need to do these things like, growl at your dog and and put your dog on its back and be bossy towards your dog, because that's how a lot of people view the concept of dominance of humans towards dogs. You don't need to do those things. But you do need to be a leader. And notice how I'm kind of like making a distinction there, because being dominant and being a leader, speaking of which, I don't know if you noticed, my dog just lifted her leg to pee. Not many female dogs do that, but very dominant female dogs will. Anyways, you absolutely need to be a dog's leader. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you need to dominate or be dominant. I try to think of myself as a leader of my team, our company. But I don't think anyone would ever accuse me of being dominant towards other members of the team, towards other employees or things like that. I don't think anyone would ever accuse me of that, even though I am the leader and attempt to be the leader and, always try to be the leader. Because leadership is simply guidelines, expectations that you follow through on. That's what leadership is. Leadership isn't being bossy. Leadership is not being physically stronger and tougher. Leadership is not using a deep voice. Leadership is not pushing the dog on the ground. Leadership is not growling at your dog. None of those things are leadership. Leadership is deciding what the rules are, outlining those clear expectations of how to follow those rules, and following through. That's all it is. So, if folks try to tell you dominance doesn't exist, they're wrong. It does. But again, don't worry about it. Don't worry about bringing it into the conversation and thinking that you need to be dominant. You don't. You just need to be a good leader.